कर्मण्ये वादिका रस्ते मा फलेषु कदाचनः मा कर्म फलेतुर्भू मा ते संगोस्त्व अकर्मणि. This is a very famous shlok from Gita, which means you have a right to perform your prescribed duty, but you are not entitled to the fruits of action. Never consider yourself the cause of the results of your activities and never be attached to not doing your duty. Hello and good afternoon, everyone. I am Ruchi Singhal, welcomes you all on behalf of entire KSG team in this magnificent festival of knowledge, that is Success Carnival. The team KSG is persistently working day and night from 2008 onwards for serving the interests of the civil service aspirants under the guidance of erudite and learned Dr. Khan sir. Even though there is no device to gauge the efforts done by our team KSG, but then we can definitely say that the kind of efforts we put in, coupled with the hard work done by our students, are the reason for our successful results over the years. To display the report card of KSG, particularly 2019, I can proudly say that out of 20, 14 students are associated with KSG with an overall 50% success rate for the 2019 Civil Services Examination results. Today we are privileged to have with us Mr. Mandar, All India Rank 22, coming from Beed district of Marathwada, an engineering graduate who cleared this coveted exam in his maiden attempt. Congratulations to you, Mandar.
Thank you very much, ma'am. Thank you, entire KSG team, for giving me this platform to interact.
Also, we have Dr. Khan sir, a versatile personality and success guru for countless toppers of UPSC. And we have Anshul sir with us, a renowned faculty of KSG. So now, without wasting any time, I would like to call Khan sir on screen to share his kind words. Over to you, Khan sir.
Thank you, Ruchi. And I'm repudiating my success guru title that you just gave. I am no success guru. My only achievement is that good students decide to join KSG. And Mandar is a typical example. He was already a topper of the country before he chose us. So I think entire credit goes to the students and their success. Definitely not it belongs to KSG. It belongs to them and them alone. And that's on record. Well, I like to further tell you that the very purpose for organizing this kind of carnival is very simple. Letting the students see as to what actually works directly from the people who have tested the success. And this is the latest version I was talking about of success in the country. This definitely is working. KSG has been always evolving with time. Why we have in the country at all the levels. At interview level, definitely we have got the final results coming, but at the classroom students that we look at, we have got in last 5 years, marks are not available for this year, so I'm only counting last 5 years. 3 times we had highest marks of the country in general studies from the students who were part of KSG classroom courses. So while we finally count the result when it comes out as final, like Mandar has come out, but then we have classroom performances amazing. 3 times in last 5 years, highest marks in GS from the classroom students. That speaks volume about the kind of effort. But then it is again, repeating the same sentence is because good students chose us. So I think Mandar, I'm really thankful to you. And I will not waste much of your time. And straightway go back and then probably try to collect the pearl of wisdom that you have done for giving us such a beautiful result in such a short time in first attempt itself. My best wishes are with you for a beautiful career. Over to you back, Ruchi.
Thank you so much, sir. Now I would like to request Anshul sir to carry on the discussion with the topper today. Over to you, Anshul sir.
Okay. Thank you so much, Ruchi ma'am. And we are privileged to have Mandarji with us to share his pearls of wisdom. And to start with, I have certain questions, Mandarji, that I personally want to ask. And certain questions are popping up on the screen that many students are watching you live. So, very cliche question, or the which asks, when you get this news on I think 4th of August. Who was the person responsible for breaking your dream or making your dream? if you are sleeping at that time?
Sir. It was my one of friend who called me that results are out and
Okay.
congratulations, and that was it. I didn't knew my rank. I didn't know anything. I knew the fact that I was selected. So I quickly went up to the UPSC site. I downloaded the result, and just with the shaking hands, I searched my name, and it popped up in 22nd place. And yeah, that was the feeling. Like it was most relieving as well as most emotional feeling on the day that finally the hard work of 1.5 years has come to a final logical conclusion, as well as there was a feeling that my mom and dad are very proud now, and that satisfaction is definitely there.
I think not only mom and dad, I think the entire Beed city is in joy, because I am reading the Marathi newspaper, though I don't understand the script of Marathi, but I learn Marathi. So I think entire Marathawad is in joy because of your success. Now, coming to the very basic question, like you did your engineering, as I know that you came to Pune and you did from VIT your engineering. Then, when this seed of UPSC or civil services germinated in you, that yes, now I want to take this exam. So, I want to ask when this seed germinated. As you already mentioned that around 1.5 year you have invested your time and energy for this exam, but there must be something. Is it the childhood one, or like when you are in your preparation phase of colleges, when the seed germinated?
So for many people, it is a spur of a moment wherein they decide to go for civil services as a career. For me, sir, it was a cumulative journey. Like from 8th standard, there was a thing in back of my mind that because my dad is in government services, so I have seen administration from very close contact, and I have seen the impact which administration has. That it gives you a platform to reach out to millions of people on a stroke of a pen. So there was a back of my mind that I want to do career in administrative services, though that was a very childhood dream. Then I pursued my diploma as well as my degree in mechanical engineering. And one thing was very clear that technical service I will avoid as far as possible. Corporate job I was really not interested in. So civil services I chose as an option because it gives you diverse platform. So it was a accumulative journey, a childhood dream, and the efforts in my college years that gave me the result.
Yeah, I think your vision was very clear that you don't want to, many people comes with plan B. Okay, it doesn't work. But as our director, Sir Khan sir, used to say, your plan B is also plan A. So sometimes when you are so much dedicated, then success is going to be yours. Now coming to some academic questions, because this is a 3-tier examination and every tier has its own relevance. But see, you don't have the experience of giving prelims again, so I'll ask less question about prelims. But then I ask you because it is one of the toughest nut to crack. The prelims, sometimes people feel like, okay, there are some 5-6 lakh people appearing, and out of them, if you calculate the ratio of the selected candidate for mains, it is around 14,000, 15,000, sometimes even lesser than that. So how you ensured your strategy that you clear the prelims? What were your basic mantras for clearing the prelims? What you did? Can you enlist few of them?
Yes, sir. As you rightly pointed out, that prelims year by year is becoming unpredictable as well as very dynamic. So it is becoming the elimination round, I will say, wherein very few candidates, like you said, among the lakhs, only 11,000 candidates were selected this time. So there is a very high need for the candidates to secure their seats because prelims, as we say, it is very unpredictable. So my strategy was based on my 3 pillars. One was my resources, second was my planning for the study, and third was my temperament. My resources, sir, there was a standard book list, and I remained very confined in the resources, but I revised them multiple times because that helped me to consolidate my information, as well as that gave me a confidence that I have a sufficient content for clearing the prelims. Coming on my second pillar, planning, I think, sir, around 50% of my success share in preliminary examination goes to planning, because I started in 1st January of 2019, wherein I gave dedicatedly 5 months of preliminary preparation, and in that I made 2 levels of plans. One was a macro plan wherein I set up the targets for the months, and one was a micro plan wherein I set up the targets for the days, and I melted down on the daily slots like morning slot, afternoon slot, evening, and a night slot. So the planning was there, and I knew that sitting in the month of January, I knew what portions will be covered in month of March. So that level of planning was there. Secondly, practice. It helped me a lot because, as we know, prelims is becoming more dynamic. So more of your techniques matters a lot because even if you are senior in UPSC, even if you are navy in UPSC, it's your first attempt or a last attempt. You will not be able to solve around 40 to 50 questions because there will be 50% of the questions which are very new or which are some tricky to you. So your techniques comes handy in these. And I scored 120 plus in my preliminary examination. So I think that score was because of the techniques which I developed both by solving the test series as well as by UPSC previous year question paper. Sir, my third pillar, and I think for preliminary examination, this is most important one. Sir, it was temperament. Because in the 2 hours of preliminary examination, we shall not be bogged down by anything because many of the candidates are there who let go the prelims in first 10 minutes. So that temperament is required, and that builds very incrementally starting from your preparation. So I think that temperament helped me a lot, and that sustained my performance throughout that 2 hours, and I was able to crack the prelims.
Very lucidly explained, Mandar. I must say that first thing is resources, second is planning, and third is temperament. I also want to emphasize to my viewers that planning, he gave 50+% to his planning. Like what we do in KSD, we start with a vertical plan. So the word is vertical plan, right? From your first day in the institution, we are planning. So thank you so much for pointing out that planning is one of the crucial factors, because I have seen many students who didn't clear prelims because of unplanned strategies. Yeah. Apart from this, the temperament part, which you say, because the examination pressure is too much. So handling that pressure, and in your first attempt, as we see the cutoff is out for prelims, it is 98, and you have already scored 120, so you are way safer than that. So I think this strategy a candidate should follow. Apart from this, there is paper 2 CSAT, Harsh. So, sorry, Mandir. So what do you think, because since you are an engineer, so did you practice it, or it was like an inbuilt for an engineer to perform better in GS2, or you did it, or you didn't take any chance for paper 2 as well?
Sir, I think I neglected CSAT, and I was not able to, I was in a dicey situation because my CSAT paper was not that great. Because I thought that I would have missed the cutoff in CSAT because 67 marks are required. Because there were two things. Firstly, I judged my GS paper in prelims way too ahead of the time, and I thought that GS paper has not gone very well. So that pressure was there on me. Secondly, I didn't practice much of the question papers for the CSAT. So in that 2 hours, it was very difficult for me to remember my formulas in engineering, which I was taught, and that was very difficult. So I will advise the viewers and the aspirants to beforehand practice some of the CSAT papers, because you do not want to waste your attempt just because of qualifying paper as CSAT. So that will be my advice to the students.
Yes, I think very valuable advice indeed, because if one has to see the papers of paper 2 in UPSC prelims, it is getting tougher day by day. Every year the CSAT paper is getting tougher. So it's a very good advice by Mandar that you should not neglect it. Being an engineer, he find it something difficult to perform in CSAT. Because if you couldn't clear CSAT, then your paper 1 score will be in a state of fear, right? So now coming to the process of mains examination, which is, I think, the most important for your selection. So I'll ask questions related to mains, which is coming on the screens by the student. A student is asking that there are certain areas in paper 1, like art and culture is there, world history is there. So you covered entire syllabus, or you chose selectively as per the some important sections, or you covered everything?
So I think when it comes to mains examination, cost benefit analysis is very important for the topics which are mentioned in syllabus copy. So I made that cost benefit analysis, and for art and culture, I referred only fine arts NCERT, wherein I limited my resource to that, and I will advise students not to indulge in doing PhD in art and culture, because there will be maximum one or two questions from art and culture, and that will suffice for it. Secondly, as you mentioned, the world history. Sir, I do have read the world history, because many of the times one or two questions comes in GS1 paper, but I very selectively read it, because syllabus copy points mention some very specific events, like World War is there, American Revolution is there, French Revolution is there. Then you have to read about some wars like Israel Arab War. So these are very specific topics which I read from a standard book, and I made my own notes from that. And I think that suffices for me, because sometimes very genuine or very broad questions are being asked, like this time American and French revolutions, the values were asked, and
Both
sometimes
combined.
very specific questions are asked, like the decolonization in Malayan Peninsula, which nobody will knew the exact answer. So your answer writing comes handy in these topics, and that was basically my strategy for such niche topics in syllabus.
There is one question which I remember, Harsh, and since you belong to Marathwad, I think the water scarcity problem is there in your region as well. The question related to water stress. So, since you have been part of that region, so in those questions which are related to water stress, did you apply some case studies in your paper one? Because you are virtually not, you're really seeing those things happening in your districts or nearby region. So, does it help? Does it help an aspirant writing case studies in paper one in such type of questions where you can put down? Because you can see there was a train coming to Latur, coming of
Yes.
water, and then there are other stuffs like women are queuing up and they're entering in a well for getting water. So this particular region, I think such kind of questions comes with an emotional connect to you. So how
Yes,
did
sir.
you approach such questions? Do you write case studies?
Yes, sir. Definitely, I quoted some case studies, and in the very question of the water stress, I mentioned one case study related to Pani Foundation, which is doing a great work in Marathwada, and I think that helps a lot, because that shows your analytical skills, that you are connecting the theoretical questions with practical realities in the areas in India. So case studies also help a lot to gain brownie points in answers. However, a word of caution is there, that do not write case studies in each and every answers, or in the answers where it will look mechanical, that you have artificially put a case study to increase the length of the answers. So very selectively quote case studies. I think very well-known case studies should be quoted, which examiner will surely be aware of, because that gives examiner a feel that yes, I have read this, and this is a very effective example. So I will advise students to smartly and organically quote the case studies to gauge the brownie points and not overdo it.
There's I think, a very good advice. Actually, students keep on writing case studies in every question, even if the demand of the question is not asking for the case study. And one more question in paper one, Mandar, I want to ask that there are questions related to geography. And like in ocean current, this time a question was there. Though, if you analyze the questions of this year, they have asked a clubbing of geography with the environmental concerns. But then if a direct question related to geography appears in the examination, how one can write the way forward? Because there is a proper format of answer writing. I'll come to that also. So do you think in such questions which are totally static in nature, can way forward be written, or in what manner one can write? Please
Okay, sir.
enlighten our students on this.
Yes, sir. Sir, in the theoretical questions or in the history questions, even there are very less scope of writing way forwards. Even in some questions, a conclusion cannot be written, because we do not get an idea what exactly to write. So I will advise students that do not write the way forward in the questions like oceanic current, because there is nothing way forward in oceanic currents. That is a pure theoretical question. So students can avoid writing such things. For conclusions, just give a broad idea about the concept given in the question, and write something about it. And if you cannot think of any, leave answers then and there only, because your pointed answers, your crisp answers will be awarded more marks in UPSC, and UPSC appreciates your content, not your length. So I think that the content or the quality of content should be priority of the students while writing the answers.
Yes, yes, very rightly pointed out. Now coming to paper 2, that is too much of constitution, governance and everything. And there are questions related to constitutional bodies as well, like this year Attorney General came. The next year maybe they are CAG. So there are so many constitutional bodies. I mean, you can count on fingers. There are constitutional bodies you can count on finger. So how one should approach towards the constitutional articles and the amendments and precedents and the Supreme Court judgments that one should quote in the answers? So for leveraging better marks, or is it normal? Like what worked for you? Did you quote articles in your paper 2, or like you started with your content only?
So that was my exact strategy of introducing an answer in GS2. If there is any constitutional issue involved, so I used to quote my any article in the Constitution. That was my first strategy. Secondly, sir, quoting constitutional terms helps a lot because it gives you it gives a feeling that the person is well versed with the Constitution, as well as person knows the legalities behind the issue, and he is writing with having full knowledge about the issue. So that was my strategy about quoting the articles. Secondly, sir, about the theoretical questions, as you pointed out, that Attorney General is there, CAG is there, sometimes other constitutional bodies are being asked. Sir, I think standard books should be referred in this regards because Lakshmikant has covered all of these issues, and we read this information for preliminary examination, but students ignore of revising the things before the mains examination. So I will advise student to just go through it once, write some issues and collect the factual information, because that is also very necessary in value addition in your answers. So that will be my advice to students.
Okay. Now there is one more section, Mandar, which is of paper 2, that is the international relationship. And they have certain specific questions related to international relationship, like they focus on India's role with the neighbors, which are, two of our neighbors are like hostile to us, and other neighbors are generally friendly. So in these questions, attending with the neighboring states with India, mentioning certain doctrines, like there is a Gujral doctrine which was given by I.K. Gujral sir. Do you think such kind of doctrines will work in conclusion or in introduction in order to show India's image as a inclusive country in the questions which are specifically related to India's relationship with the neighbor countries?
Sir, for my strategy for international relation was I used to introduce answer with any current affairs with regards to bilateral issue of the countries asking the question or the multilateral institutes. So that was my strategy. And regarding whether we can quote a doctrine, sir, if it fits, like if it's about India-Pakistan relation, if it's about India-Bangladesh relation, India-Sri Lanka relation, then definitely doctrines like Gujral doctrines of non-reciprocity can be quoted. Secondly, I think a practical way ahead will be much better for that. Because for many of our neighbors, we are launching many of the programs as well as many of the infrastructure projects. Many of the multilateral cooperation is being done with cooperation with the third countries like Japan. So quoting that projects, that will be more of a help, because that will show that you are updated with the current affairs as well as what is the ground situation about the bilateral relations as well as multilateral relations. So I think that will be more helpful rather than quoting the theoretical terms and doctrine.
Now, one more question that is related to paper 2 also. There are welfare schemes and how it can be helpful to weaker sections of the society. So there are multiple flagship schemes of the government of India. How did you prepare for this, especially for your paper 2?
So yes, as you very rightly pointed out that we do not have to read each and every scheme by the government. Only some flagship schemes need to be read, like Swachh Bharat Abhiyan is there, Skill India Mission is there, Digital India is there, then I think Stand Up India and Startup India scheme is there. So you just make a note of each and every, firstly list down the flagship schemes which you think that they are important enough to be asked in mains examination. Then you list down these schemes. In one line for introductions, you write a very specific aim of the scheme. Like for Pradhan Mantri Gram Sadak Yojana, it is making all weather connectivity roads in rural areas. So that is a very crisp sentence that defines all the scheme. So you mention one line introductions for the scheme. You write what work has been done. You write the issues which are pointed out by various committees. need to know about any flagship scheme, and that is what the UPSC generally asks. UPSC never ask any technical question regarding scheme, how it will help to larger section of the society, or how the broad objectives of the schemes will be achieved. Like there was a question on smart cities mission, and it was that three C's which are very core to the scheme, and UPSC asked that only. UPSC did not go in technical details. So I think knowing the broad objectives and
sections of the society as mentioned in the syllabus. Now coming to one more paper, that is paper 3, which is sort of dynamic because of the subjects involved in it. There was a question, Mandar, if you remember, which is directly dealing with the public distribution system, like food grain distribution. There are leakages in that. Such kind of questions. So do you think in writing these answers, these models will work in your answer writing, these models related to something correction of these schemes?
Sir, definitely. As I earlier mentioned that if the models are being fit organically in the answers, the flow of answer is not getting disturbed, then definitely quoting the case studies will help, and it will show you a depth of the knowledge. But if you are reading too much of the resources for collecting these case studies, and you collect so much case studies that you end up writing nothing about them. So that as I said, the cost benefit analysis is very less. So if any coaching is providing you any crisp material, then you can go for it, like collecting a case studies. And I will advise that not more than 5 or 4 case studies should be collected, because our mind gets confused which case study to write and which case study not to write. So that will be more helpful for the students, as well as for the questions like the PDS, as you mentioned. Factual information definitely will help, like how much target or how much storage is there in PDS, what targets are we exceeding, are we very successful on the 3 A's, that is accessibility, affordability, availability. So that keywords always helps a lot.
Yes.
While it comes to very specific questions like PDS. So that will be advice to students, that do not run after the case studies, do not run after collecting the case studies. Just know 4 or 5 case studies and use them at multiple levels. That will be more cost benefit. That will be more cost benefit to you.
Now there is a portion, Mandar, which is in paper 3 related to government budgeting, and every year sometimes 1, sometimes 2 questions appears for that. So what was your strategy? Did you read the budget or how did you manage to do questions related to government budgeting?
Sir, there are 2 things. One is government budget, and second is economic survey of government. So for the budget purpose, I used to take out the printout of budget speech by Honorable Finance Minister, and I used to watch the video and then write any specific points which are mentioned in the budget. And that is a 2-hour exercise, but that gives you very in-depth understanding about the budget, because in many of the times Finance Minister explains the logic behind any government scheme which is newly being introduced, or Finance Minister explains how they are exceeding any specific targets. And I think that suffix for the government budget. When it comes to economic survey, I used to read volume 1 directly from the survey and take out my own notes. That helped me a lot to understand Indian economy in its depth, as well as to consider comprehensive analysis of some economic issues. Secondly, and I'll advise students to go through volume 1 of economic survey, because it will give you very in-depth analysis, and sometimes questions directly are picked from the economic surveys. So that was my strategy for government budgeting as well as economic survey.
Okay, fair enough. Because you are saying that you must see the government budget, because whatever the finance minister is speaking up, you can pick those points and inculcate your answers, right? That is, I think, the right strategy.
Yes.
Now, coming to another part, like the information and technology, and these part, this year the question Cyberdome, make many students uncomfortable. But I'm talking about a very basic question, which was about the role of biotechnology.
Yes.
Because now UPSC these days are asking the role of biotechnology or nanotechnology in the human welfare, how you can apply these. So what did you write in your copy related to such questions, like which are related to technology, and how it is
very specific, that right, how the Cyberdome is going to help us in cyber security. And second was how biotechnology is helpful for the farmers, because that is a very safe strategy, not to quote any specific things in the questions which you do not have an idea. For the questions like biotechnology, I adopted integrated approach like biotechnology for the farmers before they harvest. Biotechnology farmers when the crop is in standing position, and biotechnology in animal rearing. Biotechnology in very different aspects of integrated farming. So that I wrote. I addressed each and every vertical, and I think that is the best strategy because addressing different verticals gives a shape that you cover topic in comprehensive way. Secondly, you are not leaving any points behind, and thirdly, you do not have to care about the length of the answer. Your 250 words get filled up in that. So I think that quality of content as well as the points that you mentioned, the structuring of the answers matters a lot in such questions.
Definitely, structuring and your multi-dimensionality and the coverage. These are the three requirements to leverage good marks from the examiner. Now, one more area which is very crucial for India's internal security, because this year I think a question related to insurgency in Northeast is asked.
Yeah.
So in these sections, did you prepare some maps or like to draw like this is Nagaland or this is the area where insurgency is being observed, or you just write down the things in the copy?
Yes, sir. So the question was regarding the porous boundary with respect
Yes.
to Myanmar, I guess,
Myanmar, yes.
and that was very apt question to draw a diagram because you just draw northeastern part of India and you show how the border is porous and what are the impacts. Like there is extortion business going on in northeast. There is human trafficking in Bangladesh as well as Myanmar border. The golden triangle, I guess, it is there for the drug trafficking. So you just show it on the diagrams, and that gives a very good representation that you are covering, and that saves a lot of space that you do not have to write these things in multiple paragraphs. You just show them by the diagram. So definitely, in such very specific questions, drawing a diagram is a good strategy, and that gives a very good representation to your answer copies. So that was my strategy regarding this.
I think one must practice at least India's bordering states prior to writing the examination. Okay, now coming to paper 4, which is very good and which is very, ethical. What was your approach for both these sections? That is the questions related to terminologies and the case studies. What was your approach as a whole?
So ethics, the very fact that ethics is very subjective, that is why the strategy for GS4 is very subjective. Mine was, I'll explain it in two verticals. One was theoretical and one was case studies. So for case studies, I used to make templates like I made 3 templates for any specific case study. I will introduce with over broad issues involved in case study. Then I will hit the bullseye and address the question. And in conclusion, I will put what qualities I require to solve the issue involved in case study. Then other template was regarding introduction with any current affair. Then again hitting the bullseye and the question, and then writing a positive, optimistic conclusion. So these are some templates which I made. For the theoretical portion, sir, many a times students neglect the content issue, and I think that contents do matter a lot in theory ethics because how well you have understood the concept, how simple your definition is, and is definition yours truly, that makes an impact. Because I made each and every syllabus copy point, I made my own definition, some of my own experiences, example to be quoted in the answers, some of the examples from the leaders like Mahatma Gandhi ji, Martin Luther King Jr. So these leaders' life experiences, I related them with syllabus copy point. And one thing which I made that I take out examples of some IAS and IPS officers also.
Yes.
With their batch number. That gives you impression that you are respecting the bureaucracy and you are very well aware about the what things are happening in the Indian bureaucracy. So that was also my strategy to collect the various case studies as well as examples for theoretical part of ethics.
Yes, very rightly pointed out, Mandar, because if you see, there are certain buzzwords, I must say, like honesty and integrity. There is a hairline difference between both of them.
Yes.
You must have the crux of definition part to attend the first portion of case studies paper 4. Now coming to the very crucial part of your preparation, that is the optional. And I don't know why, but many students from Maharashtra go for anthropology, and anthropology is a very a fruitful subject for the aspirants over the years. Like many toppers are clearing, including you. So what was your strategy? How did you choose anthropology? Because you are from an engineering background. So what prompted you to attract towards the anthro?
Sir, I will not give the cliche answer that is given in interviews why I selected anthropology. My answer is very prudent.
Yes, sir.
Firstly, UPSC is a competitive examination wherein you need to score an edge over your opponents to be in top ranks. So anthropology is very good subject with regards to scoring, and over the years, its scoring pattern has been very good. Some of very high scores, like 380s, have been achieved by some toppers. So that was first reason. The second was that anthropology syllabus is very crisp, and that gives you an edge in timing because some of the optionals like public administration is there, geography is there. They took time relatively from the anthropology. So anthropology syllabus can be aced in 3 months dedicated preparation. So that was the second reason. So thirdly, I prepared in Pune, Maharashtra. So resources were ample available, both offline and online, for the anthropology. So that was also a pattern. And finally, a little bit interest was there because anthropology is very different subject, and you get to learn something new, and that keeps your mind fresh and active while learning the subject. So that was also a reason. So accumulation of this made me to think anthropology as an optional subject.
I think paper 2 of anthropology is very learning paper.
Yes.
That is a tribal India to learn about that, and you have to read a report called Zagza Committee report. A wonderful report drafted by Zagza. So coming to the last session of second last, I must say, that is essay. Because essay also you garner very good marks. I mean, students can reach up to 170 marks, and we have observed this. And these days 2 essays are asked, part A and part B. So how did you select the topic of the essay, and what do you suggest to our aspirants? Like because you must have seen that in essays there are certain topics which are too easy and which are too luring for you to attract and attempt B, and some are like bouncers. You couldn't find it to be doing in comfort zones. So what should be the strategy of an student to pick the topic, and how he should advance?
Sir, I think that students should not think that this topic is too easy and will be taken by too many aspirants because that will end up you choosing a topic which is relatively difficult, and you will not find yourself in a position to write better essay in that. So that consideration should not be there. Choose a topic on which you have some content. Choose a topic in the subjects you are comfortable with. Like I was comfortable in polity, I was comfortable in philosophical essays. So I choose philosophical essay is paper 1, and in section B I choose that education and health wala topic. So that gives you an edge that you know certain content on the subject, and you will write that. Secondly, choosing a topic should be in I guess 5 to 10 minutes. People should not take longer times because that helps you or that makes you confused which topic to choose. So a very prudent decision should be made on spot, and students should make their mentalities as well as their strategies on choosing the essay with regards to this.
Now coming to the last part, that is the interview. And when was your interview, and do you want to share something exciting about your interview which was asked in your interview? When was your interview scheduled?
So initially my interview was scheduled on 24th of March, but due to Janta curfew in 22nd of March and the pandemic situation, it was postponed, and finally it was held on 24th of July. And my board was P.K. Joshi sir, Honorable P.K. Joshi sir. And I will admit that however you prepare, however you plan for the interview, it will go not as per your plan. It will go something surprising will be there, something unconventional will be there. Like my interview was very stressful interview, and they tested each and every bit of my knowledge. Like the environment was being asked, the economy was being asked, polity. I guess the art and culture also was asked. Then I come from Marathwada, the water issue was asked. Then farm loan waiver was asked. I wrote electoral officer in my DAP, so election commission was asked. is election commission biased? That question was asked. Then sir, I come from background of diploma, that is a technical education. So one very stressful question was there. One ma'am was there on the panel and she asked कि बेटा आपने डिप्लोमा किया है, आपने डिग्री किया है और उसके बाद भी आपने जॉब नहीं लिया है, आपको नहीं लगता कि आपके जैसे युवकों की वजह से स्किल इंडिया मिशन फेल होता जा रहा है? So that was a very triggering question, that it was very stressful. But I give a very big smile to ma'am and I positively replied that yes ma'am, voluntary unemployment is one of the reasons, and then I explained other reasons. So I think my confidence was checked, how constructively I take the criticism was checked, my mental stability as well as temperament was checked, and in Hindi we say it hazar jawabi, how effectively I reply and how optimistic my replies are, that was also being checked. So I think your personality matters a lot, and that's why UPSC does not call it interview, it calls it as a personality test.
Personality test, yes.
Yes, sir.
Okay,
And
so I think it's a beautifully done. Like they said to you, criticize, and आपने अपनी हाजिर जवाबी से उनको कहा कि voluntary and all sort of reasons were also asked. Thank you so much, Mandar, for all your vital informations which you have shared. Regarding your 3-pillar planning, I liked very much, and also your 3 template in ethics paper, I like that much, and which attracted me a lot, or is your criticism taking ability, because since you are entering into the world of challenges as well as opportunities, so criticisms are going to be there with you, and also opportunities are going to be there for you. And my best wishes, आपके भविष्य की उज्जवल कामना करता हूँ मैं, and thank you so much for providing me and KSG time of your valuable life. Thank you so much. Over to you, Ruchi ma'am.
Thank you so much, Anshul sir. Thank you so much, Mandar. So at the end, I just want to say one very simple thing to future aspirants. So it goes like, मंजिल मिले ना मिले ये मुकद्दर की बात है, हम कोशिश भी ना करें ये तो गलत बात है. So thank you so much, Mandar, for for giving such a precious time to KSG, and thank you, Anshul sir. Thank you, Khan sir.
Thank you, Mandar. I just really was so impressed and engrossed. I really want to thank you personally. It was really, really nice. We're not live now, I'm not sure, but then, and it was really wonderful hearing you.
Sir, thank you,
And
sir.
just
And,
the clarity
I
of
just
the
want to
vision.
mention one incident. So the recording that you sent just a day before my interview, so that was a really moral booster for me, because I was very stressful because this is my first attempt and I was very confused that मेरा interview अच्छा होगा कि नहीं होगा. So that proved my moral booster. Like you mentioned my positive points, and I really thank you for that.
Oh, really? Thank you. I'm really touched.
Sir.
Thank you, Vita. Thank you very much, and God bless you.
Yes, sir.
Bye.
Have a good day.
You too.